and that particular frame, this is the Kremlin. This is the place where you have President Putin, who decorates people. This is where most of the investitures happen, and right in front of that marquee statue that you see right in the middle. To give you more context on that, I'll pull in Sandeep, my colleague. Sandeep, would you want to talk to us a bit about what you find in the middle of this historic frame? Is a historic statue?
Nothing in Russia happens unscripted, and this exactly tells you is President Putin talking to two of the top journalists from India, giving India Today an exclusive interview, and in the middle you have a statue called Russia. It is a woman warrior in full armor of the 19th century. This is a statue that incidentally that was built in 1896. It is a Tsarist statue, and it portrays that warrior standing with a shield in her left hand and a sword in her right hand. She is in full armor, and she's protecting the emblems of Tsarist Russia, which is a scepter and it's a crown. And on the base of the statue is a slogan which says, "God save the Tsar." It is Imperial Russia. This is the statue of Imperial Russia at its height in the 19th century. So it's very interesting that President Putin would choose to put that statue right in the center of a very, very important interview, a very long one to India Today. It's a world exclusive, and we are all waiting to hear what he has to say. But that statue, that position of that statue is extremely important. It's very significant. It talks about Russian pride. It talks about Russian martial prowess, and the fact that it harks back to a time when Russia was one of the most important powers in the world. And of course, this has continued. A lot of people will read many meanings into that statue. The fact is that, Preeti, if you look at all the Russian strategic missile submarines of the Yuri Dolgoruki class, they are not named after figures from the Soviet Union. One would normally think that President Putin, who was a colonel in the KGB during the USSR, during the heydays of the Soviet Union, would name things after the figures of the Soviet Union. Not one of the dozen or so strategic missile submarines, the most important military platforms of the Soviet Union, are named after Soviet figures. They're all named after Imperial Russian figures, whether it is generals, it's princes, it's generalissimos. All of them are from Imperial Russia, and that is essentially Russia signaling not just to the near abroad, but to the world that it is a power, it is a civilizational state, it is more than 1,000 years of history. And Preeti, this is very well known that President Putin is a big history buff, and he has been known to lecture guests, he's been known to lecture interviewers. So I'm very curious about what he must have told Anjana and Geeta about Russian history, particularly Russian military history. He is what many people say a Tsarist. He goes back to the origins of Russia, whether it is in Kievan Rus, where Russia began, in what is present-day Ukraine, going all the way up to the Grand Princes of Moscow, that's Ivan IV, who overthrew the Mongols, and then over 1,000 years of Russian history, Catherine, Empress Catherine, after whom that hall is named incidentally, where they are giving that interview. That is the Catherine Hall in the Kremlin. So everything is symbolic, everything is being chosen for a purpose. It's President Putin, it is the Kremlin, it is Russia, and it has had a history of signaling its interests, signaling its proud history, its martial traditions. All of that you can see in that one frame in one of the most important interviews given by President Putin in the 21st century, Preeti.
You're bang on. And it's not just India that's looking at this interview. We've got, buyers across the country. We've got journalists across the country clocking down. And now it's just about an hour, 7 minutes where that interview, that world exclusive, actually airs. And like we pointed out, definitely an agenda-setting interview that will make headlines. He's spoken in depth, not just about the India-Russia context, not even just, the Southeast Asia context, but more so when it comes down to the global order. And that's most important at this point of time to address, especially where President Putin is concerned. So his first interview in that context. I want to bring in Gaurav back into this conversation, and then Gaurav and I are going to switch places, Gaurav, because right now you've got visuals coming in of the motorcade of the Prime Minister along with President Putin pulling in to 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. There is an informal dinner today. Then tomorrow is where business is going to be conducted. But if there is a money shot, if there has been one moment which seems to have surprised Kremlin as well in a pleasant way of the warmth that was portrayed by the Prime Minister, where he personally came down to receive the President, give him that hug, ride with him in the same car in that motorcade to Lok Kalyan Marg.
You know, this warmth is mutual. The respect is mutual. This is a friendship that actually goes back a long way. 2001, when Narendra Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat and he had accompanied then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee to Moscow for the summit. And incidentally, President Putin was then President. Prime Minister Narendra Modi recalls that President Putin had treated him very well. He, went out of the way, engaged with him, spoke to him, gave him a lot of respect. And that's the time that this relationship actually developed as Gujarat and Akhtar Khan, becoming two partner states. And then when Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India in 2014, this relationship actually soared to new heights because both are very strong leaders, both history buffs, both talk about, President Putin, Russia first, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India first, and how they can dovetail this relationship, which has actually held both countries in great stead in the past. And then they've stood by each other through thick and thin. India did not abandon Russia. Remember when the S-400s were being taken, that time America threatened to impose sanctions on India under CAATSA. India still went ahead. 39,000 crore rupee deal for the S-400, $5.5 billion. India still went ahead, risked the CAATSA sanctions, ultimately got a waiver. And you've seen in Op Sindoor, they've held us in good stead. Even now, America wants to put a lot of pressure on India, including 25% additional tariffs. India's still going ahead and engaging with Russia. And we'll just watch for those conversations. President Putin just said that I'm going to meet my good friend Narendra Modi. That meeting with good friend Narendra Modi is happening right now. Let's see what comes out of this, Preeti.
Well, let's see what comes out of that. But yes, this is a new chapter in a relationship that has endured decades, because Russia and India have had a friendship that has constantly evolved over decades. But one thing has been a constant in that evolution. They have had each other's back.